Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I'm bringing you a special edition about this day in history. Pearl Harbor was bombed in 1941. And I think it's important for us to remember history and what has come before us, because if you don't learn from it, you're bound to repeat it. So I've got this special edition with a couple articles here that I'd like to bring to you to maybe bring you up to date on exactly what Pearl Harbor is. Maybe some of the younger ones that listen to my show don't know what it's all about. So this will be a little educational experience for you. And then I have a little enlightenment for you on the next article. But let's start with this one. This one is off of history.com. And it says at 7:55 a.m. Hawaii time, a Japanese dive bomber bearing the red symbol of the rising sun of Japan on its wings appears out of the clouds above the island of Oahu. A swarm of 360 Japanese warplanes followed, descending on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in a ferocious assault. It struck a critical blow against the U.S. Pacific Fleet and drew the United States irrevocably into World War II. With diplomatic negotiations with Japan breaking down, President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his advisors knew that an imminent Japanese attack was probable, but nothing had been done to increase security at the important naval base at Pearl Harbor. It was Sunday morning, and many military personnel had been given passes to attend religious services off the base. At 7:02 a.m., two radar operators spotted large groups of aircraft in flight toward the island from the north, but with a flight of B-17s expected from the United States at the time, they were told to sound no alarm. Thus, the Japanese air assault came as a devastating surprise to the naval base. Much of this Pacific Fleet was rendered useless. 5 of 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, and 7 other ships were sunk or severely damaged, and more than 200 aircraft were destroyed. A total of 2,400 Americans were killed, and 1,200 were wounded, many while valiantly attempting to repulse the attack. Japan's losses were some 30 planes, 5 midget submarines, and fewer than 100 men. Fortunately for the United States, all 3 Pacific Fleet carriers were out at sea on training maneuvers. These giant aircraft carriers would have their revenge against Japan 6 months later at the Battle of Midway, reversing the tide against the previously invincible Japanese Navy in a spectacular victory. The day after Pearl Harbor was bombed, President Roosevelt appeared before a joint session of Congress and declared yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. After a brief and forceful speech, he asked Congress to approve a resolution recognizing the state of war between the United States and Japan. The Senate voted for war against Japan 82-0, and the House of Representatives approved the resolution by a vote of 388-1. The sole dissenter was a Representative, Jeanette Rankin of Montana, a devout pacifist who had also cast a dissenting vote against the U.S. entrance into World War I. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared a war against the United States, and the U.S. government responded in kind. The American contribution to the successful Allied war effort spanned 4 long years and cost more than 400,000 American lives. So there you get an idea of what it was about. I don't think the article really hits hard enough on the devastation of the families that were impacted by that war and the death that went on with all of those young men. 400,000 young men, American men, died in that battle, or in the Battle of World War II. So maybe this next article will enlighten you a little bit about what's gone on in our politics recently. This is off of girlsjustwannahaveguns.com, and it says Obama remembers Pearl Harbor by insulting World War II vets. Obama and his administration has no respect for those who serve our country. It's safe to say that most, if not all, World War II vets do not want another atomic bomb dropped ever again. Obama sure knows how to get on people's good side. The White House says World War II veterans who feel personally embittered by Japan's unprovoked attack on Pearl Harbor should set aside their feelings and welcome Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Abe's visit to the military base later this month. Abe will meet Barack Obama at the 1941 sneak attack, which was described as a date which will live in infamy for a final summit just weeks before he hands over power to President-elect Donald Trump. The Japanese leader has not said whether or not he will apologize for the provocative attack that thrust the United States into the war. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said Monday the kind of sentiment that's being expressed by the Prime Minister of Japan is one the administration believes would be warmly received by most Americans. Earnest told a reporter inquiring about an apology and how it might be perceived, "I can't speak for every single American and how they will react to this particular situation." A World War II veteran who was drafted by the U.S. military to go and fight for our country overseas in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor attack might feel quite embittered, and I think it would be a perfectly natural and understandable human reaction to not be particularly satisfied with the words of a Japanese prime minister. The White House official began to make a statement about those veterans, saying, "The thing that we know about the greatest generation of Americans is that they're anything but." Then he stopped himself in mid-sentence. He paused, restarted, and said, "I think we take a risk if we underestimate the patriotism and the capacity to set aside their own personal interests and prioritize the ambition and opportunity of the American people. So yes, there may be some who feel personally embittered, but I'm confident that many will set aside their own personal bitterness, not because they're personally satisfied by the words of the Prime Minister, but because they recognize how important this moment is for the United States." Adding, "And that's certainly why they qualify to be described as the greatest generation." Abe will visit Hawaii on December the 26th and 27th for the highly symbolic meeting with Obama. The Japanese Prime Minister will pray for the war dead at Pearl Harbor.